Good deal. Well, we got some people hopping on,
Nice.
and for those of you who I haven't talked to personally in Facebook Messenger or walked a property with or grabbed a beer, my name is Ryan Hill, and I'm the owner of this Facebook group, admin. I guess it's a free group, so I don't really own anything. But welcome. I'm local in Denver. My brother Austin and I are doing some wholesaling. If we haven't linked up, let's connect, chat, see if we can create some sort of synergy, maybe some rising tide action. But let's get right into the meat and bones. Today we have a guest, Michael Ditton. Michael, hello.
Aloha.
Aloha. He's big into the Hawaii terminology, so we'll work on bringing that in. Thanks so much for joining me. And a little bit about Michael and how we met. Just really quick, we met at a real estate event down in Florida a few months back. And Michael, we actually went out on a dolphin cruise as part of the event. And Austin and I actually were talking to Michael at the head of the boat, the bow of the boat. And we were looking at dolphins and talking about personal development and real estate. And Michael's story just really resonated with me on all levels. He's a true family man and knows how to create and retain relationships. We're going to talk a lot about multifamily investing and some of the deals that he's done and explorations and adventure he's been on. But just to kind of preface it, if you can connect with Michael after this and get to know him on a more personal level. He's a really cool guy with a lot of stories, and yeah, great dude. So Michael, with that introduction, I just wanted to give you a moment to add anything you wanted onto it. We got about 900 people in here. We got wholesalers, realtors, investors, I'm sure multifamily folks as well. So why don't you go ahead and give a little bit of an intro?
Cool. Well, thank you very much for that intro, and it's an honor and I have a pleasure here being here. So thank you very much. I love multifamily. I love real estate investment in general. I mean, I've been doing it for quite some time, so it's in my blood and it's my passion, and it's provided a nice living for me and my family, and given me some opportunities to do some things. And I love teaching it. I love sharing it. So multifamily is, it's kind of how I started. I bought my first house when I was 20 years old, but basically I got into multifamily and really got into real estate investing in 97 with my first 4-unit complex. And from that time forward, I've been hooked, and I was in it pretty deep for a long time. Oh, that was my cat jumping up on my back.
I don't know if we saw that or not. I think the screen just glitched a little bit.
Yeah, my cat just jumped on my back. She wants a little loving. Yeah, so
by all means.
Yeah, she's cool now. So from 97 forward, not only did I add multifamily, but I did single family and condos and everything else to my arsenal. But I taught a lot of people how to buy as well, whether it was individuals, families, or investors. And very successful career. And I'm kind of giving you the short run of it here, but in 2007, after realizing there was a lot more to life than working, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, I decided to go live it a little bit. So as you mentioned in the lineup, I sold everything, jumped on my sailboat, and disappeared for 10 years. So had a blast doing that, and then life threw some changes, which it does quite often, and I changed with it, or we call it tacking when you're out on the water. The wind changes. When the wind changes, you tack, and you still end up getting where you want to go, or maybe it's a new destination. And I tacked in 2015 and ended up 16 selling the boat, 17 moving to Hawaii. Was there for a couple of years, then back to mainland San Diego, and some opportunities. I really got back into investing again October of 19, and then it was October 19, and just went in both feet, and here I am in Southeast Texas now, and got some really good things going on, some great people around me like yourself, where we met at that event, and I love that opportunity meeting with you and your brother, and we were surrounded by great people at a great event, and we continue to be surrounded by those people today. And not only are they friends and associates and that, but they're family, I guess you would say it. And you and I were talking about relationships earlier, and it's really a big thing in this industry, is to have those great relationships. So I'm glad to have this one with you, and glad to be here today.
Yeah, a lot of fun. There's a lot of different directions that we could take this, and I definitely want to get into multifamily and all that jazz, and just kind of numbers and what you look at, checklists type things when you're making a big investment. But before we dive into that, I just wanted to understand a little bit more about your journey. And I know a lot of people out there listen to the Bigger Pockets podcast and read financial freedom books, and really, I mean, I see real estate as kind of the catalyst to being the vehicle to create that, and a lot of people are getting into it for that reason. I know that building relationships and just having fun with the process is enough for you, but talk to us a little bit about the, I guess, thought process that you were going through back when you decided that you were going to take the sailboat out, and what was going through your mind. How did you plan that out? What did you have to create in financially? We don't have to talk numbers, but what did you have to be very sure of, and actions that you took leading up to that trip?
Sure. And real estate, it is a true passion of mine, but it is also a vehicle to do the things that I want to do, which is why a lot of people, like you said, do it. Hopefully they enjoy what they do along the way,
Right.
because it just makes it all that much better. But whether it's sail around the world, whether it's to serve people in a different aspect, because my life mission, my life purpose now, other than real estate investment with my wife and I, is completely different than it was before. So the things that we're working towards now are different than they were then. But back then, knowing that we were going to take off and sail around the world, that was a major thing. So yes, financial preparation, business preparation, everything else came into play. And when we started planning and preparing, we put the big map up on the wall, and we decided that we were going to go out and see it. At first, we didn't know we were going to sail. We were trying to figure out how we were going to do it. And then we decided that sailing was, was going to be our home, and it was going to allow us to get around the world and go do these things.
Of course.
And,
yeah.
And, you could have flown and gone destination to destination and backpack. Some people are more into that. But, we were boaters, and that was our thing. So when the time came, in order to be prepared for it, we actually put a 5-year plan in motion. And that 5-year plan turned into a 7-year, but because you do have to adjust sometimes. 4 years into the plan, I was a 20-year member of the United States Armed Forces. In 2004, I was in my 19th year, and I got activated again for another war. And so I got called away, and I had multiple businesses and preparing for taking off and sailing around the world, and all, my real estate and everything else. So I actually gave ownership to my companies, to two of my managers, in order to try to make sure that I had something to come back to, because I learned during Desert Storm, Desert Shield, when I was away there, I came back financially and mentally and, bankrupt. And I didn't want that to happen again. So, that preparation, getting through that phase, that threw a little monkey wrench into it. Actually, the building next door to, I had my real estate office, I had boating supply store, internet cafe, a gift and clothing store, and a little electric boat rental business, all based out of one building. And a lot of our traffic flow came from the building next door. And that building burnt down right about the same time. So that foot traffic kind of slowed down as well. But, we just readjusted, which is what you do, you tack. And 2 years later, we were in that position to get out and go sail. And we prepared for it. We, when we sold everything, all of our businesses and all of our real estate, we were able to, we did it before that change in the market in that 2008 timeframe. So we were very blessed with that. We didn't have a crystal ball. We just, things worked out that way. Kind of wish I had all those properties today, because I paid $199 for one property, which was worth about 1.4 million now. But you know, that's hindsight. So we're rebuilding as we speak, and I'll do it a little different this time. But that's all part of life and growth.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What is one of the, we'll get back to the serious stuff after this, but what is one of your funniest memories, most funny, however you want to say it, out on the sailboat, or best?
Oh man, I had so many of them, but I'll tell you one that I talk about a lot was the day that my boat sailed away without me. So I had anchored in a little anchorage in I was in Playa de Coco, down in Costa Rica, and we had to check out of the country. So we anchored the boat and we dinghied in, and we went to go see the port captain and do all the stuff that we had to do. Well, everybody went to lunch about that time. And of course, you know, it's mañana or siesta time, and it's not uncommon in these little communities. And we ended up going to lunch, doing the same thing, and went back. And of course, you go one place and they tell you to go to another, you go to another. And 4 hours later, which should have taken about 15 minutes, we're walking back out. And I actually had jumped on the payphone and was trying to get an international call back home to let them know that we were going to be at sea for several days again. So this would be my last call. When my buddy came running up to, he goes, "Mike, we have to go. Mike, we have to go." And I said, "Hang on a minute, I haven't made my call." And he goes, "No, we have to go." And about that time, I looked out across his shoulder, out into the harbor, and I'm watching my boat go backwards through the harbor.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hung up the phone and we took off, and he took off and started swimming out. I grabbed the dinghy and started paddling out. We finally caught up with the boat. Thank goodness it didn't hit anything. But what had happened was, with the afternoon winds coming, the offshore winds coming, we must have just anchored on the edge of a shelf, and there was just enough wind to drag anchor. So we were dragging anchor through the harbor. But yeah, that was the day my boat decided to take off without me in Costa Rica.
Nice. Thanks for sharing. That's a fun one.
Yeah.
Glad you caught it. That would have,
you and me both, bud.
that would have changed some stuff.
Yeah. And I'm glad it didn't destroy anything on its way.
Yeah. So as far as real estate then versus real estate now, and moving forward, what is something that will never change, in your opinion, in real estate?
Well, there's a couple of things. One, real estate is cyclical, so we're going to see changes. You know, there's this pandemic that went on kind of threw everybody for a loop. They thought it was going to completely crash right at the beginning of the pandemic. Now they're talking about a crash coming up. I'm not one of those, oh holy, you know, the world's coming to an end type of people, but I do know there's a correction coming. I do believe it's going to be more geographical, but I do believe that there's going to be a correction coming. A lot of these places are way overinflated, and we'll see some hits in those areas, and places that didn't have 30, 40, 50, 150% increases, they probably won't see as much. So that cyclical is part of it. But on the other part, in anybody that's doing real estate investing or anything else, a lot of it also is mindset, because to me, it doesn't matter what market we're in, whether it's a strong market or a changing market, there's always opportunities. And I don't mean just taking advantage of somebody that's losing something, but the opportunities are there because there's always a way to help somebody out. You know, whether they're needing to buy something or needing to sell something, there's always a way to help somebody out. So if you truly know your craft, your profession, and you do it the best that you can, and you can be creative about it, you can always figure something out. Doesn't matter what the market is.
I like that. Create the win-win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doesn't matter if it's rain or shine out there.
Yeah. And I truly believe that.
Yeah, as I do. That's awesome stuff. Are you okay if we talk a little bit about the recent deal that you had going on?
Sure. I love talking.
Awesome. Well, I like listening. I think other people do too. Yeah. Especially with a guy that, you know, that has hair look like that. Let's talk a little bit.
This little background I have makes it look even a little bit more wild.
Wildly awesome.
Yeah,
so
thanks.
As far as the deal that I'm referring to is the 98 unit apartment building, and yeah, just I'd love to hear a little bit more about the prep that went into that. First of all, what is your role on that? Who else is involved? And we can get more into it as you kind of describe the skeleton of it, and then I'll probably have some follow-up questions.
Yeah, well, my partner and I are the principals in it, and we have a group of investors as well. That's, you know, it's not my project, it's collectively our project. I'll give you, I'll kind of set it up this, because we talk about mindset and persistence and all these other things, and they play a big role in this particular project, because just before we came on, I was telling you about Corpus Christi. I used to own property there from 2008 to 2016, and I had a property manager there. I had boots on the ground. I had a team, and team is very important. Relationships are very important in what we do, partnerships. So I started looking in that particular area when I started really looking in Texas again. And one of the deals I wrote an offer on was a 111 unit complex. And we really thought we were going to get it. And somebody out of the blue showed up and made an offer, and it was a little bit better than ours. But when I talked to the broker, and I started to build a little bit of relationship with the broker through this process, and I'd never met this guy before. He was in Houston, I was in California. I caught one thing that he said when he said somebody came from out of left field, and I don't know who they are, but they wrote an offer and it looks like it's going to be accepted. And I picked up on that, like, keep in touch with me, because I don't know if this is actually going to happen or not. Of course, he didn't say that, but my radar went off. And so I gave it a little bit of time, and I reached back out to him again. And I said, hey, you know, you said those guys kind of came out of left field. Just wanted to check and make sure that everything was still going. If not, we're still interested. And he goes, no, it's working out and everything's good. And I said, cool. I said, well, if anybody in your company has anything that comes up that's like it, you kind of know what we're looking for, keep me in mind. And if you don't mind, I'll keep in touch with you. And he said, no problem. So that was October of 2020. So it wasn't 19, it was October of 20 when I got back into real estate. October of 20, and we missed out on that one. I missed out on a lot of things. Just didn't quite get the deals. Fast forward until March. And in March, I'd been in touch with him a number of times because his company had some other properties that I was interested in. And I would always go to him, whether he was the listing person or not. I mean, they always work in teams, but he wasn't always on the deal. And we kept this dialogue and communication going. Well, in March, I got my partner and I, we actually had just missed out on a deal one morning. And it was like a total gut punch. It was another one of those, like, we'd already started designing the remodel and rehab in our brains and everything else. We thought it was a done deal. Somebody came in at the 11th hour, and the owner took that offer and didn't even counter ours. So I'm feeling that gut punch. And all of a sudden I open my email, and there's an email from this broker out of Houston. He goes, hey, Michael, you're on my short list. I've got something coming up. It's in Southeast Texas. It's not in Corpus, but if you're interested, I'd be happy to share it with you. And I took a look at it, and I looked at the numbers on it, and it was just like, oh, there's something wrong. This is too good to be true. And I ran the numbers. And Mike, my partner, he's a multifamily guy, and he's a coach. He has coaching programs, and I'm his lead coach on those programs. So just before this happened on a day that we were coaching, and just before we went into the coaching program, I was all excited. I shot a bunch of information to him, and I started telling him, and I said, we need to talk about this one. And he says, well, right after, our class tonight, we'll talk about it. So right after the class, we got on, we're both looking at it. We're both going, this is too good to be true. This is too good to be true. And we said, okay, we're writing an offer on it. We'll figure it out tomorrow if something's wrong. But we both looked at it. And it turned out it was just a great opportunity for us. It was off market. They were preparing to put it on market. But because of the relationship I had kept with this guy this whole time, I was on that short list, and we were able to put an offer in before anybody else did. Long story short, we got an opportunity to go into escrow on this deal and really work towards making this happen. Once we went into escrow, Mike's got his own world of investors. I got my own world of investors, and we collectively do a lot of stuff together. And we needed to raise $1.74 million to get this project done. It was a $4.5 million project. And and that money also included a bunch of CapEx for renovations, because 8 of the units had been vacant for over a decade. In fact, the owners we were buying it from had never had those units rented, and it was probably about $75,000 a year of lost revenue. So we factored all that in and everything else that needed to be done, so we went to go start looking for that money, and it took us 10 days to find that 1.74 million, because one, it was a great project. Two, we this is what we do, and we got our investors on board, and we made this thing happen. And of course, it wasn't without hitches. At the 11th hour, we had our lender actually walked away, and it was actually at the 12th hour. We were literally, all of our money had gone hard, and it was like, sink or swim. And we ended up finding a hard money guy to do a short-term loan to get the deal done. And we plan on refinancing as soon as we get the 8 units done and we get it stabilized a little bit, which is coming up here after the first of the year. So we started the renovations, I think, around July, August, and we should be done. They're getting really close to being done, so they should be done right around the first of the year. And then we'll refi, we'll pay off that short, harder money. It wasn't hard money, but we had to pay a little bit more for it, but got the deal done.
It's impressive. Something that stuck out to me, Michael, you keep saying shortlist, and it sounds like the broker, I mean, that's a big piece of multifamily investing, is finding the deals and having those relationships with the brokers and being on that short list. How does one, and you don't have to share all your tips and tricks, but how does one get on the short list? It doesn't really sound like you necessarily did anything other than keep in touch with them, have good communication, and I mean, it doesn't sound like you were calling them every other day or anything like that. What do you think? What do you think?
That probably would have kept me off the short list, calling them every other day. But no, you just when opportunities came up from his company, he knew I had interest in, he knew I was legit because I'd made an offer on that other one. We had proof of funds. We had everything lined up. We were going to, we're going to make it happen. So, he knew we were legit. So when I kept asking him afterwards that, we're still interested, we're still looking, I wasn't a pest, but when something came up, I said, hey, I see your company's got this. Can you get me the information? And it was just, it was more of a casual conversation in all this stuff, and keeping in touch with them. It might be once or twice a month where I saw something come up. If there was nothing, I'd check in and just say, hey, I didn't see anything. You got anything, that's about to come up? Just checking in every once in a while, not too much that you're a nuisance, but a couple times a month, so he didn't forget you. And in this particular case, that happened. And, it happens. I've got a number of guys that I work with. It's the same way. I have a gal that I'm working with right now. She actually doesn't have the property. She's working with a wholesaler, and I'm not quite sure what arrangement they have, but through some things that I've done, she actually came to me, and she was at either in one of the events that I was at or something I spoke at or something else. And, we kind of got to know a little bit of each other. And then she had a deal come up one time. She asked if I was interested. And of course I evaluated it, and I said, thank you. It's not for me. But wish you the best of luck if anything else comes up. And she goes, well, do you know anybody else? And I put feelers out to see if anybody else was interested. It was a little unique. So, just being human and talking to people, not blowing them off, even if it's not going to work. I never just completely shut them out. I let them know, thank you very much, and I appreciate it. Keep me in mind for the next one. And, just being, for me, it's just me being me. I just like talking to people that way. And at the end of the day, she knows what I'm looking for, and something came up, and I got a list yesterday with 4 properties on it, 3 of which are of great interest to me, and one I've kind of did a verbal offer. I'm waiting to hear back from the guy tonight, and there's a possibility that I might get 1, 2, or 3 of them, or at least I'll attempt to. And that's just keeping in touch with people and being kind and courteous, and not slamming the door in anybody's face, and being helpful where I can without overdoing it. But she had she had a couple of things, and I helped her out on a couple of things. You know, no big deal for me, but I don't know. I just like doing that stuff.
Love that.
Yeah.
Any idea why the lender backed out, or if there's something that you could have done different?
You know, yeah, actually, we realized that there was nothing we could have done. For some reason, they decided not to do this property, and they used the excuse. They turned over instead of doing a full-blown appraisal, they had hired a company out of Houston to do like a broker price opinion. And when we got our copy of it, it was a complete joke. I mean, they used picture. I don't even know where they got the pictures. I mean, the place looked like holy crap. The information that was in there was totally inaccurate. The numbers that they were using were the numbers that we had purchased it at, not the numbers where it was currently at, because we bought it at 77% occupancy, and we were closer to 90% by the time we went to go to funding, because of all the things that we were doing with the new management group we're bringing in and the old owners just trying to get everything dialed in. And they had like I think it was like $150,000 in added expenses that just were just there, and it's just like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. You know, if you fixed all this stuff, that price opinion that you got from these guys would actually be in our favor and not against us. And they listened to us, but they say, yeah, we still decided not to do it. So I mean, they knew that it was. So anyhow, at that point, you either have to toss in the towel or change gears, and we changed gears.
Yeah, it goes back to the mindset stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like there could have been a little more transparency there, but you got it figured out, and now you're close to finishing the rehab. Is there anything you'd recommend for someone that's just getting started in multifamily?
You know, I love multifamily. I guess just yeah, it pretty much pertains to everything. I mean, you just want to do your due diligence. The evaluation process is different than a single family. You know, the underwriting and loan process for anything over 5 units is different than, you know, single family. So you just want, you want to be up on your game. You know, either get some coaching and mentorship from somebody that can get you, the knowledge that you need to do what you can to protect yourself and any investors that you bring into the arena, to make sure that it is truly a win-win for everybody. One of the other things you and I were talking about earlier is we have, not only in this project, but in general, I deal a lot with Canadian investors. And that's a whole different arena. I mean, they've got a lot of money they want to put down here because the returns are a lot better here than they are back at home. But, they have to deal with cross borders, issues like, taxation and legal and everything else. So, part of my team is able to meet with these people and do cross borders work with them. So, just knowing what it is you're going after, make sure that you fully understand it, get coach, mentors, what have you, so that you do know that it is a little bit different animal than a single family. Not that it's any more difficult, but it is different. I actually find it very easy because I love evaluating properties. So to me, it's just, for me, I can sit down and evaluate a property, and within a matter of minutes, find out whether it's something I want to pursue or ask more questions about or walk away from.
And that takes practice, I would imagine.
It takes a little practice, and having the proper tools. I didn't do that. It's a whole lot different today for me than it was way back when I was buying multifamily, because I was doing it different back then. I had a completely different mindset. It was a good mindset, but I dealt with it more 1 to 4, which is still considered single family residence. Well, in the arena I was playing in back then, as a veteran using a VA loan, I could buy a 4-unit complex and it still qualified for single family. That was awesome. I taught a lot of veterans how to do that, because they can live in one, they can rent the other 3 out, they can collect that revenue to pay the mortgage. If they bought right, then they could actually have some income while they're living in their place. One of the cool things about that is the lender will also take 75% of the 3 other units, if it was a 4-plex, and use 75% of that income, that revenue, to help qualify for the loan. So that was the arena I was playing back. Now I deal more with 5 units and above, and it's a whole different loan process. It's commercial versus residential. Not that it's actually easier, because they look at multifamily in that commercial aspect more like a business. It's more the numbers that actually are going to get you, the bank's attention. They want to look at your cash on cash and your cap rates and your forced appreciation and all that other stuff. And that little cheat sheet that I use, I mean, it spells it all out in just a matter of a few minutes.
Amazing. I can tell this stuff lights you up.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Sorry.
Obviously, this isn't the first time we talked, but I'm seeing you perking up pretty good over there. So
yeah,
it's always good to see. How do you continue to have fun with all this stuff?
Every day is a new adventure. That's all I can say. I mean, every day is a new adventure. Sometimes they're challenging adventures, and some days they're more fun. But like yesterday, I have the paperwork. I printed it, and right in the paperwork it says fully assignable or something to that nature. It's just like, it said it's assignable, and I went through all the motions and everything else. I got to the point of making an offer, and I made the offer, and they said, well, this is not assignable. It says assignable. I'm looking at it right here. Well, it's not. Okay. I just wasted, a couple hours of prepping and offer writing and everything else. And, it's no big deal. I mean, it's all learning and stuff, but, and then you have other days where I've got one guy, the other offer I wrote yesterday, he is a wholesaler. And that guy, I don't know what he does, but man, he's always got deals. He is reaching out to me 2 and 3 and 4 times a week with deals. And I love dealing with him. We haven't done a deal yet, but I love working with him. He's a really great guy, really, so, I had 2 deals on the extreme opposite. One guy that, said, even though it says it, it's not. And the other guy says, I'll do anything I can to help,
You just ride the wave.
I do.
Yeah. Nice. Well, this is a good, I guess, introduction into kind of the last topic that we'll talk about, and then we'll share some ways to get in touch with you and everything like that. But as far as guys, Michael Ditton here, he's an author, and he's written about, I guess the title of his book is let's see, Dreams, Goals, and Adventure. Do I have that right?
You do. That's correct.
Awesome. And this is probably the piece that I'm most excited to talk to you about, just because I really respect what you've done and the adventure, and obviously you have to have goals and dreams to put all that together. But talk to us a little bit about never losing sight of your dreams.
Dreams, Goals, and Adventure was actually called something different when I first started. In 2008, right after I had taken off, I was sitting in the cockpit of my boat in La Cruz, Anchorage in Mexico. And I really wanted to give back. I wanted to share the things that I'd learned over the years, the things that I'd been teaching all my clients and everything over the years. And the book was called From Broke to Retired in 10 Years. Because I had gone from broke to retired in that 10 years, from, Desert Storm, being broke and destitute, to, owning a bunch of real estate and businesses and selling it all and going sailing. So I started putting this together, and the tides changed. The economy changed, the housing market changed, people's jobs situation changed. And I'm thinking to myself, all these great tips and tools I have in this book, people aren't going to be able to use, because this is not where they're at in life right now, because there's too many bad things happening. And I said, but I really need to figure out a way to give back and do something. And all I could think about is after Desert Storm in 1991, when I came back mentally and financially bankrupt, the thing that saved me was remembering, as a young man, I had dreams and goals. And I had put those up on the shelf because life wasn't playing very nice at that time. And I'd forgotten all about them. But when I remembered them, I pulled them off the shelf, it's what got me through and got me pointed in the right direction again. So I'm thinking I need to write something that's going to, remind people or inspire people to never lose sight of their dreams. And that's where Dreams, Goals, and Adventure actually came, in the cockpit of my boat in 2008 in that anchorage. And I just took a series of short stories from my life, beginning at age 8, when I was a young entrepreneur. I can't even talk. It's the end of the day and my mouth is getting dry. I grew vegetables in the garden behind our house. It was actually my mother's garden, and I helped her. And what we didn't use or give to family and friends, or can and pack in the freezer and everything else, I was able to load up the wagon and go door to door and sell fresh fruits and vegetables. And the neighbors love me, and there's a retirement community behind me. And I go over there and I take off with a wagon full of vegetables and come back with a pocket full of money. So it started there, and that was my mindset and mentality all through life. Short stories through life, good, bad, and different. And as I would share these stories, at the end of each chapter, I would have like a lesson or an aha or a thought or something. And that's kind of where it goes more into not just the inspiration, but to make you think about something that's going on either in your life today, or something that's affected you in the past, or something that can help you get past something into the future. So, writing that book, it took me a long time to put it together, but I'm really proud of it. I had several different people involved in helping me edit that book, from my now ex-wife, who did that first session, to a good friend of mine who's an English teacher, who was a client of mine, fellow author, English teacher over in the Philippines now, professional editors, a sailing buddy of mine. I had a whole bunch of people, but the combination of everybody helping me edit that book, I really believe it came out to be a true inspiration to people, and just a bunch of fun. Most of them are fun stories. There's a couple that are, I still struggle when I talk about the one. I don't know if I sent you your copy yet or not, but if I didn't, I apologize. I'll get it to you. But there's one where, during Desert Storm, one of the most difficult but most rewarding jobs I've ever done in my entire life was being on burial detail. And there was a moment where, we buried not only fallen soldiers from the war, but from the wars past. And we buried a Vietnam veteran one day. And, with this elite group of individuals, doing the ceremony, we practiced off the fields, back at the barracks. We practiced, when we got up there, we practiced until it was time to go, because it's the ultimate respect that the soldier and their family members deserve when they're laid to rest. And spit shine shoes, medals, pressed uniforms, everything to the T. I mean, it's something else. And when we were up there that day preparing for this service member to come so we can all pay final respects, I remember this day like it was yesterday. It was we were there, and we started to hear this little buzzing noise, and it was this area was this meadow just up on a little bit of knoll, and they had a whole bunch of trees around, so you couldn't see the 2-lane highway down below or anything else. And that buzzing noise, everybody kind of stopped and was listening. And then all of a sudden the buzzing got to be a little bit louder, and it was kind of a little bit of a vibration. And then it became a little bit louder and a little bit louder. And then all of a sudden the ground literally started moving. And through the gates must have been 1,000 motorcycles. This guy was an avid avid motorcyclist, and he'd ridden from the East Coast to West Coast, and people came from all over the country to pay their final respects. There was so many motorcycles. There was almost no place to park when they all finally stopped and the engines were cut. And we did our final bit and folded the flag and presented it and everything else, and then we walk away. And I remember I'm sitting there talking. We're always the first to arrive and the last to leave. And I remember I was standing with my back towards the crowd, and I was facing some of my buddies, and we were talking. And then all of a sudden, my buddies just stopped talking, and their eyes got kind of big. And all of a sudden, the sunshine disappeared. I mean, it's like the cloud came over me, and it got dark. And I turned around. When I turned around, my nose was in the belly button of the guy that was behind me. And I craned my neck and I looked up, and this guy was a monster. I don't know if you remember the movies, the James Bond movies with the guy, the Jaws guy that can bite the cables in half. But this guy made him look like a dwarf. And I turn around and I look up at this guy and I'm going, holy cow, this guy, he was as big as the side of a barn. He could have eaten me for lunch. And as I'm sitting there looking up at him, he stopped and he threw his arms around me and he had tears in his eyes and he thanked me for laying his buddy to rest. And I just got goosebumps. I mean, those were, that's one of the stories in the book. I mean, I've got a lot of good ones, but that's one of my favorites.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Puts things in perspective.
Yeah. So
as far as, we can definitely wrap up here in a minute.
Okay.
I wanted to touch on goals really quick.
Yep.
And understand a little bit about how Michael Ditton creates goals. Do you have a process that you go through or anything that you can share? It doesn't have to be extensive. Get the book, people.
Yeah. For me, goals are, dreams and goals are kind of intertwined because you got to have something big. I mean, that's how we ended up walking on the moon, have cars that drive themselves and everything else. You got to have something big. That doesn't mean you're going to get there on your first step. So you got to have all the little steps or stepping stones to get there. So figure out what that big thing is, put it up there. That is like the shining light you're going to be walking towards, and then figure out all the steps that you need to do to get there. And for each step, you find out what you need to do to accomplish each step. So I have a bunch of different tools. In fact, I actually have a website that has free tools for people that, are having trouble struggling. And I also have programs that are available through one of my other businesses to help people get through them as well. But basically, you've got to know what it is. You've got to write it down. You have to put a plan in motion. You have to be able to adjust. And so many people go, this is my goal and this is what I have to do. And sometimes you have to adjust to actually get there. And that's okay. So those are my simple tips. Got to have a goal. You gotta realize it. You got to have that intention. You got to put it out there, but you also have to write it. You have to plan it, and you just have to do it. Write it, plan it, do it.
Write it, plan it, do it. Simplicity is key. 100%.
Yep.
I couldn't agree more with that. I feel like sometimes I get to the end of a goal and maybe the time period is extended or something like that. And it's easy for me to feel like I can almost just give up or keep pushing it down the road or something like that. But I like that you have to adjust and be realistic and
Yep.
all that stuff. So
yeah,
well said.
Yeah.
Well, before we end here, I wanted to ask you, first of all, if there's anything else that's on your mind that you wanted to share.
The only thing I can say is anybody that's listening, especially if you have real estate investing in mind, Ryan is a great guy and one of those compassionate guys that loves to share and teach as well. So eat it up. I'm always here as a friend to Ryan and to any of the listeners, that if I can share anything that will help anybody, not just in real estate, but in anything that we've talked about, I'm happy. I consider myself a young guy, but I'm very well seasoned. I just hide it real well, and I've had an opportunity to do a lot of things and learn a lot of lessons, and I like to share those lessons. So if you got any questions or if we can help in any way, just reach out.
Awesome. And I know you're on Facebook. Is that the best place to reach out? Or
that's a really good way to reach out. And for the easiest thing is just my name, Michael Ditton. Michael Ditton at yahoo.com is my email, or Michael Ditton on Facebook. If you Google my name, you'll find the book, you'll find my Facebook, you'll find, Helius, my company. You'll find a lot of things out there, but yeah, feel free to reach out direct.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Michael. And folks, do reach out to Michael. I think he's proven himself to be extremely experienced and level-headed in doing these big projects in state, out of state. And definitely if you're in that realm or trying to get into that realm, Michael's someone that I would highly recommend you touch and yeah, just to have a conversation with him. And I know he does have courses out there as well for different mindset stuff. And Michael, do you have a website that you'd like to share?
We're revamping that website right now, so they can just reach out to me and I can find out what their needs are. But we're actually redoing one of our courses right now. It's called Reinvent Yourself. Um, it's a project we actually developed for a lot of people that were going through all the challenges that COVID had. So while we're doing that, we're kind of revamping everything else. So just reach out to me and I'll make sure they get what they need where they need it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds good. And folks, again, Ryan Hill, I'm the admin in this group. My brother Austin's my real estate investing partner. If you guys want, if we haven't touched base, or even if we have, always down to get together locally here and walk a property or get a beer or whatever that may look like. Want to connect with as many local people as possible. So look forward to connecting. And Michael, thanks again for coming on, my friend. You're a rock star. Keep up the good work, and appreciate you coming in here and sharing all the wisdom.
My pleasure, and thank you very much.